everybody. It's Kathy and Colleen.
Hi.
So, Colleen, we're here for our April podcast. Of course, you guys couldn't know that because you're watching it in April. And Colleen is going to start off by giving us her astrology report as usual. So, Colleen, if you would.
Absolutely. Okay. So, April is going to be a month. Before I get to some of the astrological highlights, I won't spend too much time on it, but there is a couple of really big things astrologically happening. So it's definitely worth mentioning. But the energy of the month of April by itself is a vibration numerologically of the number 8. And so I do want to mention this because the number 8 in numerology is about business, career, money, finances, who we are out in the world, our inner authority, but it all comes down to our sense of power. And so this month of April, because this is going to coincide with something astrologically happening, I feel like we want to look at that vibration because we're talking about this time being a time of taking back our power, owning our power, and coming into our spiritual power to really, move into that, again, that inner authority or spiritual power of who we are as a soul, as a light, and how we shine that light out into the world. Now, the 8th major arcana of the tarot is what, Kathy?
Oh, geez. I was not ready for that.
No.
It's strength. Strength.
Right. So, we have the strength card here from one of the decks that Kathy and I both like to use, actually. And again, you can see that it's about power. It is about our inner strength, and it is about our inner power. And from another rendition of another deck I like to use, it's the Angel of Courage. So it's also about courage. This is all kind of like the solar plexus chakra, right? This is our inner sense of power, inner sense of authority, confidence, courage, willpower, ability to, really have that sense of our inner will to step forward. So the month of April is going to be all about that, all about our courage, our confidence, and owning our power. Now, I wanted to talk about that first because the biggest thing that's happening astrologically in the month of April is about the planet Pluto. And in astrology, Pluto rules power. Okay, Pluto is about power and control and death and rebirth and transformation, regeneration, transmuting lower vibrational energies. And that planet Pluto is very, very slow moving. It's one of the outer planets. And it's basically at a standstill almost for the whole month of April, pretty much for the whole month of April, because it's such a slow-moving planet. It stays at the same degree in the month of April because it's getting ready to shift to retrograde motion. Just like we talk about Mercury retrograde. Oh, it's Mercury retrograde and things are going to be funky because Mercury rules communications and messages. There's going to be things regarding communication and messages that kind of flub up or mess up. Well, Pluto, because it rules power and our sense of power, and situations and circumstances and maybe even people that disempower us, when Pluto's stopping to go retrograde, it's going to really well up and intensify that energy for the month of April. And not only is Pluto turning to retrograde motion, which is on April 25th, but like I said, we're going to feel that the whole month. Things are going to start amping up and ramping up. The powers that be, power and control situations in the collective, maybe even in our own lives personally. But we have 3 planets that is connecting with Pluto at various times during the month of April. Jupiter, which already on April 4th connected with Pluto, and Jupiter likes to expand the energies. So again, there's going to be right off the bat, at the beginning of April, which has already happened as of, us putting out this April podcast, Jupiter's going to expand that power or power and control or transformation type of energy, that death and rebirth energy. And then on April 13th and 14th, the Sun will challenge Pluto. On April 20th, Mercury challenges Pluto. Now, the Sun is our identity and how we shine our light. It's in the sign of Aries. That's the sign of the individual. That's a sign that rules confidence and courage and initiation and new birth, new beginnings. Mercury, as we have already mentioned, rules messages, communication, thoughts, ideas. So Mercury is also in Aries. That's also going to challenge Pluto. So there's going to be some things within groups or organizations or people or within the government or, again, on the planet, that's really like a wake-up call. If you want to look at this from a higher spiritual perspective, it's a wake-up call to us as individuals of humanity to take back our power, to not give our power away, to not allow ourselves to be disempowered, to own it and own it in a healthy way and exude it in a healthy way. I'm not saying, go out there and fight and, spew words of grief onto others or whatever. This is about owning our power, our spiritual power in a healthy way and transforming ourselves. And Kathy and I, we're always playing with our decks of cards and things like that when we're doing things together. And before we went live here to record, I asked the question, before I even got on with Kathy, I asked the question to the universe, to spirit, to my angels and guides, what is at least, one of the things that you want us as a humanity, as a collective, to pay attention to at this time? And the card I got was transformation, which is what Pluto's all about. Transformation, transforming ourselves. And I feel like that is naturally what is happening, whether or not we know it, whether or not we're trying to do it. We are transforming ourselves because Pluto, again, it transmutes those lower vibrational energies, those shadow energies. And as we're transmuting those lower energies, we can't help but go through a transformation. So this, to me, whenever I get this card, I feel like this is about a snake shedding its skin. It's like we're all, if you can envision that, we're all shedding an outer layer. We're all shedding shadow aspects of our subconscious, of past lives, of old belief systems, etc. And some of this may be, initiated perhaps because of what's happening in the world and what's happening in the collective. But, again, we're going through this process because we're moving and transforming into a higher place. And the other card I actually chose that to me goes along with this is I also chose this card for the month of April. So we're transforming so that we're moving more into our light bodies. We're reaching for the light here. We're moving into a higher state of awareness, a higher state of beingness, a higher state within ourselves, because that's part of, what we need to do at this time. That's part of what's happening. Just briefly, and then I'm going to hand it to Kathy. I'm sure she's already got some stuff that's coming in that she wants to say, but also astrologically, just briefly, we'll talk about it more in the May podcast, but in early May, on the 5th and on the 10th, we actually have two very significant things happening. And one is the North and South Node changing signs, and that only happens every 2.5 years, and it's about the past versus the future. And this is why it's important that these nodes are changing signs. We're moving from Cancer Capricorn energy into Gemini Sagittarius energy. And of course, Cancer is about home and family and our emotions and our community. And Capricorn is about our career, our life path. It's about our inner authority. It's about the patriarchal system. And it rules government and politics too. And so it's shifting on May 5th into Gemini Sagittarius. Well, Gemini is communication, new ideas, new thoughts, coming in. And Sagittarius is the expanded big picture, our belief systems. How do we envision our future? And how do we expand into that future? So I think that that's very important with what's going on the planet right now, with what's happening. And on May 10th, Saturn is going into retrograde motion. Saturn rules karmic challenges, karmic lessons, but also rules the restructuring process. And I think that, again, with what's happening on the planet, is part of the spiritual energy and where it's pushing us is to restructure how we live our lives, to restructure how we operate in life, to restructure the systems that we've lived under in our lives. And so with Saturn going retrograde on May 10th, again, whenever a planet goes retrograde, it kind of heightens or intensifies that energy at that time. So there's going to be a heightening of that restructuring process that's occurring. And again, we can talk about that more in the May podcast, and or if you watch my monthly YouTube videos, I'll definitely go more into that during that monthly video as well. So Kathy, take it away.
Yeah, I'm just listening and going, yep, check, 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 check. So Colleen's pretty much covered it. So thank you all for tuning in. No, I'm just kidding. Because a lot of it, going back to the Pluto information that you'd given us regarding the transformation. I've been getting the Phoenix a lot through this process of what we're going through, in that, a lot of balancing the human-esque piece of us into the spiritual piece. That's what's kind of, if you've been feeling out of sorts, if you've been feeling a little off-putting, if you've had days where just your mind is not clear, or you have more fear or frustration, or all of those emotions that are popping up, it's because your human essence, the human side of who you are, is trying to balance out this new energy in the new place where we're going. So a lot of times I see the Phoenix a lot for myself, well, a lot of with what we're going on, not just for myself, but for everybody. And thinking that, wow, this just makes so much sense to me, because we are going to expand. We are expanding. We are moving forward. As long as you choose to, we have a choice. And it's interesting because I pulled cards too, so because that's just kind of what we do. But it makes so much sense once you started talking. The Air Guardian was one of the cards that I had pulled, which is about shifting your perception and moving forward into the enlightened being, the light card that Colleen had pulled, kind of moving more into the light and just kind of going with the flow in a lot of ways, is kind of my own interpretation of this card. But it made so much sense to me that it's here, it's going to happen. The best thing we can do is continue to change our perceptions, continue to keep those that we love around us, enjoy this time, because once we get back to the universe, it is not going to be a quiet time. And there's going to be a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of us getting back to work, a lot of us getting back out of our houses and trying to get our children back into that process of whatever that may be. But again, knowing that we've been enlightened, trusting and believing, and that's another phrase that I've been using a lot, is trusting and believing, and kind of emulating the high priestess within us, which is the major arcana card that I had gotten for tonight for our conversation. And just the balance part of what you talked about at the beginning of May, was I was seeing sort of the balance in the, the black and the gray, or black and white, however you want to look at that, with the beginning essence talk that you did of May, is a lot of balance happening, sort of like everything right now, a lot of stirring the pot has been happening. And at the beginning of the April, it should start to sort of like calm down a little bit and simmer a little bit more. So everything is going to change. Our universe is going to change. It's almost like we've been given a reset button in a lot of ways. And if the government chooses to go that way, which we're all hoping, a lot of things are going to be reset, and it'll give us the opportunity to truly create anew for ourselves and go into that expansion and go into that higher vibration that we all have been. They've been trying to gently push us that way, but now it's kind of like all of us are on the same page, and that's a lot of what we need to embrace and keep around us, is that we're all here together. We're all going through similar things. We're losing people left and right because of this virus, that's been going on. And so we don't understand that part of it, because it just is what it is. But again, I don't mean to make it sound like I'm belittling it, because that's not the case. But we have to, it makes us embrace those that are around us even more. It makes us enjoy being with our family even more, taking it serious to just stay in your homes, those kinds of things. But it is starting to feel a little lighter, and we are starting to sort of see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel. And so it's like, just hang in there. Just hang in there is what I want to say to everybody, because it's definitely coming. It's definitely coming, and we will be better for it.
I feel like I'm feeling guided maybe to talk a little bit about, Kathy, what are some things that people can do to kind of raise themselves above some of the lower emotions, fears, anxieties they might be experiencing, or that they will be experiencing, because, you know, it can be tough to deal with our emotional bodies. I mean, we all have emotions, and even though we have a higher soul self, and, you know, we can meditate, connect with that and feel okay in that meditation, you know, there's going to be times throughout the day, throughout the weeks, that these emotions come in. And, you know, a couple things that I was getting in my meditation before recording this with you was this feeling of, like, feelings of emotional entrapment, like feeling just restricted and limited and trapped, and this emotional confusion and uncertainty, and even affecting us down to making choices, like making choices about, you know, money situations, job situations, childcare situations, home and living situations. You know, some people might have been in the middle of trying to sell their houses and move and this and that. So I feel like, you know, how can we deal with some of those emotional responses within ourselves as we move through this time?
There's, you know, I mean, I'd love to have a magical answer for that. And there are a lot of things that we can do for ourselves, for sure. Just separating yourself from that anxiety, sometimes just getting outside and taking a deep breath, or walking. You know, walking amongst nature is just great. I don't care. I mean, I have woods behind my house. A lot of times I just go out on my porch and just take a big deep breath and just stare at the trees for a while, if I don't have the time to kind of get out and walk around the block, or walk down the street, or walk through the woods. But again, and even just sort of looking at what's around you. You know, are you sitting at home with your family? Do you have your children, your husband, your animals, you know, whatever? Just kind of like getting outside of yourself and saying, okay, if I'm feeling this way, what are they feeling? You know, and if you're by yourself, then if I'm feeling this way, what is everybody else out there feeling? But, and then I've noticed a lot of great people sharing amazing things on Facebook. You know, just amazing things. I mean, I know, Colleen, you and I did a live connection. We've been trying to go live at least once a week if we can, just to be able to allow people to have a voice, and allow to, you know, let them ask us questions, things like that. There's great meditations that are being done online. There's a friend of mine who's doing Tai Chi online, which I told my whole experience about that the other night. But again, you know, there's a lot of people coming together to do a lot of free things. And not for nothing, if you have a holistic practitioner that you've been talking to, or you're a client of theirs, reach out to them and just talk to them. And if you can't, Colleen and I will more than gladly talk to you and help you in whatever way we possibly can. But again, just trying to stay calm. I mean, you know, one of the best songs that I have, I'm very musical, so songs speak a lot to me. And there's been a song that's been in my head, which is kind of funny, but, well, there's been a couple of songs. The first one was Jesus Take the Wheel, which is like just letting it go. You know, just let it go, because I have no control over this. All I can do is look at what's the most important thing for this minute in time. What do I need to focus on just right now, right here? And then the other song that's been coming is the total opposite. I'll just say that is like an older song, like Gray Skies Are Gonna Clear Up, Put on a Happy Face. So I don't know, but that's how music comes to me. But again, you know, it makes me giggle, and it gets me to laugh, and it gets me to just get out of whatever might be going on mentally or physically. I know the energy has been a little heavy. You know, because we can feel, those of us that are empaths that can feel everybody else's energy. You know, sometimes you have to say to yourself, okay, is this mine or is this somebody else's?
Right.
Like, am I feeling the universe, or am I just like, is there something going on in my own little body? Yeah. So, yeah.
When I think about this, you know, how do we move through these confusing emotions and uncertainty, and again, like maybe feelings of frustration or feeling trapped and whatnot. It's interesting because, you know, you brought up the song, I'm not going to try to sing it, but you bring up the song, Jesus Take the Wheel, and kind of like surrendering. And I feel like, you know, in some instances or situations that is true and a good thing to do. The things that you can't change, the things that are happening on the planet, outside of you, the things that the government may or may not be doing, you cannot control those things. And so this is where, you kind of surrender and allow and trust and have faith. But on the other end, and it's interesting, we talked about surrendering control. Again, this month of April, vibrating to the number 8, and the number 8 is about power and control. And going back to this card, I want to say that we also need to do things to empower ourselves, to take our power back. So this would be about taking some sort of action or actions in the way that you can, even if it's in a small way, in the way that you can, to take your power back, which could be something along the lines of, I always wanted to learn, let's say I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never did. Okay, well, if your hours are reduced or you can't go to work or you're working from home, so it cuts down on time of driving, so you have more time on your hands, look up an online program and learn Spanish. That will empower you. Or if there's a decision that you are making, let's say there's somebody out there that has, you have psychic gifts, you have psychic abilities, you have psychic talents, and you say to yourself, well, I always wanted to do, card readings for people, or learn astrology, or learn numerology, or take that step, but I'm not confident enough. I'm too afraid. Well, here we go. The Strength card, the Angel of Courage, says, have confidence, be courageous, and give it a try. Step outside your comfort zone, because when you step outside that comfort zone and you do these little things to empower yourself, I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help in the transformation process of what you're going to do. I think.
Well, and also planning. Planning, you can plan for yourself. Okay, when this is done, what would I like to do? If your finances are short, or they're null and void. Hopefully that's not the case, but, think of like, what am I going to do? Do I need to find a new job? Do I need to connect with somebody that I haven't been able to go? I just want to go hug my friend because I haven't been able to see them, or I want to go see my grandparents or my parents or my children if they're not living at home with you any longer. Again, it's like, start thinking, like, make a little list for yourself as to the things that you want to do when you get through this. And we'll get through it, and things will shift and change. And also the other thing that I've noticed for myself is I start thinking, okay, what don't I need? Because, are there things I can like change, like your cable system, if you watch TV and you have the internet, you have cable, do I really need it? It's really just a time to really think, like, good time to clean out. If you got extra time on your hands, clean out all the stuff you've been like wanting to get to that attic years ago, haven't done it yet. It's just, again, like you said, just finding things that can help you to feel lighter, to help you to release. If it feels claustrophobic in your home, get out to the best of your ability. It's great just to walk around your yard if you don't trust yourself to go anywhere else. Again,
like have the thought in your mind, since Saturn is about restructuring, and I mentioned about Saturn, going retrograde here, and actually it, recently shifted into Aquarius, which is a whole new sign and energy in and of itself. So we're restructuring, like, for instance, Aquarius rules technology. So now that Saturn's in Aquarius for the next 2.5 years, we're going to be restructuring technology, for instance, or restructuring the humanitarian endeavors, because Aquarius rules groups of like-minded people coming together with a common vision or a common goal. So there's a restructuring taking place there. But, on a personal level, you can say, how can I restructure my life? Just like Kathy said, well, clean out the attic, or, purge your home of things you don't need, or restructure how you're working or operating, or family time needs to be restructured. And one thing you were talking about with job, and everybody, not everybody, a lot of people are going through changes in their job on some level. Some people have reduced hours, some people are working from home, some people have lost their jobs altogether, but perhaps we can, possibly look at this as an opportunity, like Kathy said, look for the job you always wanted, to do what it is that you always wanted to do. Maybe you were in a career or job that you weren't happy in, that wasn't fulfilling you. Well, now this is like an opportunity to restructure your life in such a way that you can figure out, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be out in the world? And how can I accomplish that? What are some of the steps I can take right now to do that,
Mm-hmm.
for instance?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of great learning online too. If you don't have the finances to be able to pay for a class that's being given online, there's a lot of information online to be able to go and connect. There's a lot of colleges that are doing online courses,
Yeah.
so you can even start. Somebody had asked me about putting a resume out there yesterday, and I was like, absolutely. Because that part hasn't stopped. The job listings and postings are still out there.
And I have a friend who's recently posted on Facebook that, said that these universities are offering these free online courses. So you can, again, own your power and look for what is being offered out there that maybe I can do, because it's not going to cost me anything right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many resources that are really popping up. And I will tell you, that's the one benefit of having the internet. That is the one benefit of having technology, because it's coming in handy. Some of it, not all of it, but some of it's coming in handy right now.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a blessing. It's a blessing.
So I kept getting to, in my meditation beforehand, and maybe you can help me put the puzzle pieces here together, but I was getting this energy or vision of one thing also that we need to pay attention to in April is opening our own kind of psychic sense or psychic awareness or higher awareness. I guess maybe again, one of the things with the fears or the anxieties, how can we settle that down? Well, meditation is a great way to do that. So what's a byproduct of meditation? It's connecting to our own inner power and spiritual power, but it's going to also connect us to that universal energy or universal power, if you will, and expand our psychic senses. And what's a byproduct of that is us moving again towards this state, reaching for our higher light bodies, our fifth dimensional and higher light bodies, because we are transforming as a person or an individual. We are transforming as a collective and as a humanity. The earth is transforming. So it's again an opportunity to move us into a higher state of beingness and connection to the truth of who we are, I guess you could say.
Well, and continuing that forward, trying not to go back to the place that all of us are trying to get out of. That's going to be, I think, when the universe goes back to sort of some form of normalcy, whatever that is, or moving towards that lighter vibration, which is, I'm hoping it will continue to move forward that way. It's going to take a lot of us who have spiritually connected by that time and have sort of balanced out that higher vibrational energy to continue to carry it forward. So we don't slip back into old habits. We don't slip back into, the places that, we're just trying to get past. Mm-hmm. And to let go.
Yeah.
So really embracing it. And that's sort of what you're saying is that's what kind of came to me is embracing the true essence of who you are now, embracing the light, staying in the light, carrying the light forward. And for those that might still be struggling, because we know it's not an across the board thing. There'll always be somebody who needs some help, because we are in the human realm after all. It'll take those that have transitioned and moved forward into that higher vibrational plane to be able to help carry everybody and give everybody signs and help and learning as to how to become better.
Yeah. And how do we, again, with Saturn being about structure and form or restructuring, Saturn, is about responsibility. Saturn's the planet of responsibility. And again, moving into Aquarius, it's like now we have a responsibility to the human race too, to the collective, to our, brothers and sisters out there all around us. So when you're talking about helping others that maybe are in more of a place of fear or maybe their living situation isn't quite as stable, or maybe they don't have resources to buy the food that we need. I don't know if was it you, Kathy, or was it somebody else I saw posted on Facebook? Like, these are things, I think it was another friend of mine who lives in Florida. She said, this is some of the things you can do. It's like you make a big pot of soup for your neighbor, help your neighbor out if they're in need of food or care. What else did she put on her list? She had some great things. It's like, how do you help those in your neighborhood? How do you help support people without, if you're trying to kind of stay safe yourself, how do you help these other people? But it's like, ordering a few groceries online. A lot of grocery stores are delivering to people's doorsteps. Maybe, if you have a little bit extra, you can do that. Or maybe you have a freezer full of food, and again, making that pot of soup for your neighbor. Telephoning, calling on Zoom, Skype, or the telephone, people that that might be in need of just somebody to talk to, just somebody that, will listen to what they're going through. Or
Right.
calling those, people from your past that maybe you haven't talked to in quite a while, and just say, hey, how are you doing? How is everything going with you?
Exactly. Taking a minute just to go that extra step. We had the one thing I can't remember that I can't get out of my head when we had done our first live event was someone who had shared about her husband being in a nursing home. And there was another woman that came on and shared that the nurse, that her father's in a nursing home, and the nurse that takes care of her father in the nursing home has let him use her phone for FaceTime so that he can FaceTime with his friends. Granted, they probably call in and do the FaceTime and she just holds it for him, but I thought that was amazing. Write a letter if they'll allow the letter to go into the nursing home or the facilities. Like, those are just little things, that can really help people. I know my husband's been taking care of somebody, in another state. So he's been going up there and giving, leaving food for her and making sure she has water and, things like that. So, but again, it's really kind of embracing those. I've checked in with my neighbors because we know each other from things that have happened around the neighborhood. So I've texted them saying, how you doing? Everything okay? And they're younger people. They're actually like younger than me, but just to make sure that they're okay. And do you need anything? So it's the little things. The other thing too, Colleen, that came to mind is of course taking care and being there for everybody else around us, but it's also about Mother Earth.
Oh, absolutely.
Like transitioning Mother Earth, getting Mother Earth back to a healthy state. Hopefully learning that we can still shift a lot of this for her and honor her. So we don't want to forget that. And if you're bored, great time to be planting. If you've got some seeds, it's still a great time to go out and clean up your yard and get your yard ready and allow all those animals to come and graze and feed off your land. So yeah.
One thing everybody can do, there's no time constraints here. There's no money, financial constraints here. Everyone can send out love and light. Like, it reminded me when you were talking about Mother Nature. Now, it's not just the planet or Mother Nature or the animals, but to the collective, to humanity too. I mean, we can all, in silent time, contemplative time, meditative time, whether individually or getting a group of people together, again, on Skype or Zoom, let's get together and send out that love, light, and healing energy. You don't have to be a Reiki master. You don't have to, know any particular kind of energetic healing tool, to just be in your heart center, and breathe and center yourself and just consider or visualize or sense or see that you're sending out this love and light energy vibe to the whole planet, to all of humanity, and send that healing.
Absolutely takes nothing to send love out there, for sure. It's always a positive thing. It does so much. We know when we're in the presence of somebody, just smiling at somebody goes such a long way. And that was one thing. It's funny that before all of this had started, was saying to one of my classes that I was teaching, I was using it as an analogy for something that I don't even remember the class I was teaching, to be honest with you. But I remember saying to them, think about when you're at the grocery store and you turn and you smile to somebody. It's almost like people had forgotten to smile. They kind of looked at you like you were going to steal their grocery cart or something. It was kind of like, oh, all right. But I kept smiling anyway, because you never know. Hopefully it would carry on. Hopefully they would then turn around later in the day and smile at somebody. So, there's so many good things that you can do that cost absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
That cost nothing. Even if you don't know your neighbors and you baked a bunch of muffins, just take a couple and drop them off on their doorstep down the road. That would be kind of cool. Just leave them for them with a little note saying, just want you to know I'm thinking of you and hope you're okay.
Or you could even pick flowers and send them, put the flowers on their doorstep, thinking
Absolutely.
of you. Right? Yeah, exactly. So, if you don't have the resources to, bake the muffins or bake the cake, just, pick some beautiful flowers, put them on their doorstep with a note. I'm thinking about you, sending you love,
Yep.
hoping you're well. Call me if you want. Here's my phone number, or whatever.
Even just the note.
Right.
We've gotten away from writing.
Right. And, that's one thing with situations like this that's going on the planet right now. That's one thing positive that is a result of going through something like this. It brings us together and in support of one another, and, hopefully opens up our heart chakras to, send out that love, light, compassion, and healing energy to others. And again, assists us in our own kind of transformation, redirection, or restructuring of ourselves and our lives. So
absolutely.
Do you have any last things? I think we should kind of wind up.
Yeah, I mean, just be well, just be well and trust and believe that everything is going to be okay. Whatever you're doing it right. No matter what you're doing it right. And just keep trying to get through it to the best of your ability.
Right.
And be well until next month when we'll be here again. And if you're on Facebook, look for Colleen and I, because we'll probably still be doing live events here and there. So, join us, give us your perspective, and definitely leave messages on Facebook. You can leave messages on the YouTube page, share with us what, your thoughts. We would love to hear it. Any questions that you may have, we would love to hear them.
You certainly can email us at empoweredvoices11@gmail.com.
Yeah, absolutely. But many blessings to all of you of love and light, and hang in there.
Much love and light, everyone.
Bye.